Thank you for being right here. Ed Schultz, Susan Commentary from northern Minnesota. I was doing the show down in Florida because we're doing some things technically in Washington, D.C., so we're down in Florida doing the show. You might have noticed that on RT America. And so now we're up in the North Country. This cold stuff sucks, man. I'm going to tell you right now. No wonder everybody gets old, gets the hell out of here after working for a living. I kind of figure it out now. What's that white stuff on the ground? All right, so everybody's having a conniption over the election. You know, the Democrats whiny want to recount. I've podcast about that. The leadership team, in my opinion, sucks because they're not giving Bernie the full credit that he deserves. You know, when Chuck Schumer can go out and raise that kind of money, and if he could go out and get those kind of crowds, then maybe I'd understand him creating a position for Bernie Sanders. I mean, it is such a bone thrown at a guy and such an insult. There was ever a time for a third party, Bernie would be the guy to do it, and now is the time to do it, but he's not going to do it. I'm curious about this fake news stuff. It was not long ago the president even talked about it when he was on his European trip. And I was thinking about, what about radio? How do you know you're talking to – how do I know I'm talking to Lionel right now? How do I know it's not somebody else who wants to be Lionel? And there's millions of people that want to do that. And he joins us. Lionel, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. What does fake news mean? Is that a tautology? Is that like a male penis or something?
The fake news is when they make shit up. You know, it's when they make shit up. You know how it is. I mean, you know, there's some of these nutsy job websites out there that just write stuff and people believe it. So that's what it is. Or you don't agree with that?
Oh, no. Listen, I agree. What I also agree with, and what I feel is that, you know, look, I don't want to keep dating myself. I keep saying, you know, when I was a kid. But there was this thing, it's a very, very simple concept. And it was about who, what, when, where, why. This is what happened. This was the news. And then I'll tell you what I think afterwards. And I will designate such. I'll give you a warning. It's like when Cronkite did it or anybody else did it. It was a great idea. Here's what happened. Today, Donald Trump did this. Today, Hillary Clinton did this. And then I will tell you what it means. It's a simple concept. That's been gone. But Ed, I want you to understand, not you, I keep saying I sound so profound here, but I don't think anybody really understands that in my life, and as I've been saying, you and I have been doing this since the Harding administration, so we've been around and we kind of know our way about, and we've seen some stuff. I remember Nixon, you do that, maybe not as actively as this, but I remember there was some times when we were, you know, upset, and many people were upset about Obama and others, and Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford, and how we went through impeachment, Vietnam. You know, there's been this incredible tumult that we have seen. In fact, this country's always survived with the Depression, Civil War, and these newbies, these snowflakes, these little dunderheads who think for some reason everything revolves around them, they can't understand this cataclysmic change called Trump. But what we're seeing right here is the absolute death knell, an existential threat to mainstream media. And they never called anything right. No one listened to them. I guarantee you, you know, when you and I had that wonderful time in Fargo, which changed my life, that was kind of like a mini intellectual Woodstock because it's such a pure part of this country. But I guarantee you, I could walk into Fargo, I could walk into East McKeesport, to Boise, to L.A., and I could say, there's one thing that we agree with, folks, no matter who you are, no matter what your race is. Mainstream media suck. And everybody would agree, without exception. They have been given a pass for far too long.
Okay.
And this bias, what we've seen now, it isn't even bias. It's not bias.
Well, I think they missed it on the election, Lionel, because rural America spoke, and the mainstream media doesn't cover rural America. It wasn't until like the last 3 weeks before the election that one of the most covered stories by all the mainstream media was Lorain, Ohio, and the steel workers. My God, we were on that 4 years ago. The fact is that this job issue, this out-migration of jobs, outsourcing that took place, That's what Obama beat Mitt Romney on was the American middle class and the outsourcing of jobs and how Mitt was doing it. He framed him, and that's how that crowd went to Obama. That crowd didn't go to Clinton this time. And so now the Democrats, the progressive movement of this country, has to do some reconnecting and not take everything for granted. And Trump went right into their wheelhouse and stole those folks. There's no question about it. And the mainstream media didn't see it happen because they don't cover those people. That's how I see it.
Well, I can't believe that you and I are kind of saying the same thing, that there is kind of an elitist attitude of sorts. There's this, let me give you an example of something. This may be really off base, but then again, Ed, that's my middle name, being really off base. There has never been more relevance of the Internet and how people from around the world, foreign, alternative media, crowdsourcing, you name it. I mean, really good journalists, people who are just, Roger Ailes one time, one of the best things he ever did was they said, do you ever think, Roger, they need a license to be a journalist? He says, you only need a license to cut hair. And there are people out there who are just reporting and getting things really, really well. Let me give you an example of how detached they are. There's something that may or may, and I'm not in any way suggesting any validity of this, but there's something that's just tearing up the Internet. It's called Pizzagate. Now, this is about pedophile rings. I'm not going to go into the merits of it, but I want to give you an example of how things work. The mainstream media say, that's ridiculous, it's a conspiracy theory, you guys are crazy, it's foolish, it's nuts. Okay, a lot of people around the world, not here, but the world are saying, oh, no, there's something to this. But it just so happens that it might or might not affect or involve some people allegedly who are of Democratic circles, and it may or may not affect people, for example, in other circles that involve Hollywood. Then it's hands off. But I guarantee if it was a Catholic church, they'd be all over this. Mm-hmm. People recognize this relativistic or this relative interest that the media have. There are folks in this country, Ed, who are honest. I got to sound like a Johnny Cash song. But who are honest, hardworking. They're not racist. They're not homophobic, Islamophobic. They worry about illegal immigration. They worry about crime. They worry about their kids. They worry about the future. They worry about medical bills. And they worry about just stuff. And maybe they hunt, and maybe they fish, and maybe they have a gun. And they don't have some kind of a penis, envy complex. They're not sick. They're not rednecks. They're not any of that stuff. They're just people who really think that America could be better. And they do want to make it great again. And they're laughed at by a group of folks who are so out of touch, so disconnected. There are people who like to, you might say wave flags, who believe in God and believe in family and believe in, and all I know is that Hillary Clinton came along, Ed, and she thought she was just entitled to it. It was just her. It was just like, damn it, give me the prize. Mm-hmm. Why do you have me, run? She was more ill than she ever let anybody know about, and that was so underplayed by the media. You and I have talked about that forever. I don't know what these folks need to see in terms of a woman who really might not be up to snuff. This is a woman who said basically nothing. This is a woman who, by the way, was embraced by the LGBT community or the LGBTQIA community when she repeatedly said, running for Senator of New York, I'm not for gay marriage. What do you think, I'm nuts? But they forgot it. They not only have fake news, they have fake history. Mm-hmm. So this is the woman who said, "Where's the money? Give me the money. I'm not gonna campaign." And then, Ed, this is the part that gets me. Donald Trump says, "I'm gonna turn everything around. I'm gonna tweet." You're gonna what? I'm gonna make Twitter an art form. And what did he do after he called those rapscallions up to Trump Tower? After he made fools out of them, read them the riot act and said, "Now get the hell out of here." He went on YouTube.
Look, you know what he does? He's going around the very people you're talking about. He's going around the mainstream media. He's going directly to the consumer. He doesn't need an interpreter. He likes Twitter. He can get the message out quickly. And my advice is this: just follow him on Twitter. Yes. Follow the guy on Twitter. Check his YouTube channel out. Whatever. I don't need any of these jugheads on TV telling me what the hell's going on. I know what's going on, but I want to hear it from the source, and then I'll do the commentary from there. I think it's good what he's doing. I don't think you'll be the last president to use Twitter.
No. Well, listen, there was a time, as you might recall from history books, when FDR said, I'm going to have a fireside chat. And they thought, what's this guy doing on radio?
Yeah.
That's not presidential. Seriously. It's such a no-brainer. But Ed, when you're Wolf Blitzer or I don't even know, just go down the list, the usual suspects. You and I talk about stuff, and we've done some remarkable stuff, and you've done, especially now with RT and others. And I don't want to call things. I don't want to say things are foreign because that doesn't really speak to it correctly. But it's really an alternative way of doing things. And one of the things that people will find is that when you give somebody more than a minute and a half to do a package, you'd be surprised the brilliance that you'll see. Mm-hmm. When you are in a newsroom and your newsroom is being shuttered and you've got Wall Street and hedge funds who are ready to just wipe you out, and you've got to reduce your news coverage to the silliest and the most base coverage there is, and you aren't allowed to do really some serious stuff, to spend time. This is what's happening to this dinosaur ossified media. It's one thing when you tune into a show to see maybe somebody who might be a little biased. Dan Rather's gone off the rails now. I don't know what old Dan.
Yeah, I know. He's America's new activist.
Well, he's now. Oh, by the way, who was the genius who came up with alt-right? Who came up with this one? Who actually thought it a good idea to go back and basically conflate actual, Aryan, Klan, Nazi, fascistic, the real McCoys, to conflate this with Trump? Are you kidding me? I mean, who signed off on that? Who in the newsroom said, hey, that's a great idea. That's terrific. When you look, Ed, we are going to be feeling the effects of this election for years to come, and it won't have anything to do really with Donald Trump. It'll change the way people actually run for office. This is a guy, Ed. Think about this. Go back, and I got to admit, I still have a hard time saying President Donald Trump. I swear to God, and I don't know why. I don't know why he's any less capable than Franklin Pierce or anybody else for that matter. But I find myself thinking, wow. But here's a guy who walked out and said, I'm going to kick the collective arse of 16 of the best Republicans. I mean, Jeb Bush, and he had all the money in the world. And he didn't think Republican or Democrat. He thought people. He thought common sense. Yes.
And that's where and the Republicans let him into the game. They accepted that he was one of them. Lionel, it is always great to visit with you. Appreciate it.
Ed, my good friend. All the best, buddy.
Lionel from Lionel Media. I'm Ed Schultz, News and Commentary. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen, Cleaning the Eye, Save Team, bring you this production. Have a good one.